A small-town guy with a big taste for murder, Joseph Cotton in Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt in 10 minutes. First on BBC Two, 10 minutes later than planned. Have a peck at this. Close up.
For me, The Birds is a meditation on the meaning of woman. It examines woman's sexual power against the backdrop of primeval nature, and what I think is one of the most complex works on this subject of the last 200 years. In 1952, Daphne du Maurier published a story called The Birds, a very bleak kind of fantasy of a Cornish farmer, a veteran of World War II, who sees great waves of attacks of birds in the countryside. This story, Alfred Hitchcock was attracted to for its macabre qualities, but he needed to supplement it with a storyline that was more sympathetic. I saw The Birds when it was first released in 1963. I was in high school. It had an enormous effect on me. At the combination of the vision of barbaric nature and the glorification of beautiful, sophisticated, glamorous woman, it's a kind of vision of the world that influenced my book Sexual Personae, for example, which was not to appear for another 25 years.
There we are, lovebirds.
Those canaries.
Melanie Daniels, a San Francisco newspaper heiress who has lived a very giddy and an empty life traveling around the world on her father's money, encounters Mitchell Brenner one day in a bird shop.
Back in your gilded cage, Melanie Daniels.
What did you say?
Melanie Daniels comes to town chasing in a sexually aggressive way this man who got the best of her in the pet shop in San Francisco.
Oh, pretty. What are they?
Lovebirds.
I see. Good luck, Miss Daniels.
Thank you.
Like so many of the European directors, Hitchcock has been accused of being manipulative with his leading ladies. I think he did have romances with them, but they were not of a completely sexual nature, as would be the case, for example, with Ingrid Bergman and Rossellini. It was really a voyeuristic kind of control from a distance. Tippi Hedren is Alfred Hitchcock's creation. Hitchcock and his wife and collaborator, Elmo Revel, were watching television one day, and on one of the morning shows saw a commercial for, ironically, a diet drink, in which there was a very elegant young woman walking along a sidewalk and having an amiable exchange with a young boy. Hitchcock knew immediately that she would be perfect for the venture that he was now considering. And once he had her signed, he treated her as in the story of Pygmalion, essentially, bought her a personal wardrobe, shaped the costume design. Hitchcock himself compared his behavior to that of his character, played by James Stewart in Vertigo, where James Stewart accompanies the Kim Novak character to a store and personally shapes her wardrobe.
My luggage.
That's pretty.
Tippi Hedren is, for me, the ultimate Hitchcock star. I think that Hitchcock had a choreographic genius. He was a master of gesturalism. And I think here is where Tippi Hedren succeeds brilliantly.
And what are you doing here in Bodega Bay?
I wanted to be near Mitch. Oh, it was over and done with, and I knew it, but I still wanted to be near him.
She has a wonderful way with body language. Her way of walking, her way of using her hands, her beautiful voice, her ability to register fine tunings of inner mood. It seems to me that she was an ideal kind of an actress for Hitchcock. So much of his effects are coming not in the script, not in dialogue, but in body language and in psychological alterations of facial expressions.
Mitch?
This was as advanced a piece of technical movie making as anyone had ever seen. first, it was thought that perhaps all artificial effects could be used. Finally, some combination of live birds with process shots was the end result. The famous view of the burning town of Bodega Bay from the sky, that was an incredible piece of technical engineering. Those birds that had to be hand-painted frame by frame over a 3-month period by ladies working. The more I have seen this film, the more I have studied it, the more I see in it. There is not a single viewing have I ever had of this film where I did not find more details. The Birds is without music. It has a score, but it was, at that time, a very advanced atonal experimental music score done by German composers using a state-of-the-art trautonium, producing an eerie effects. Even when you're hearing silence, that has been manipulated by, there's a hum in the air that has been produced electronically. The Birds is simply one of those films that's able to speak to generation after generation in ways, let's say, that European art cinema has failed to do. And we find a kind of revival, I think, of the Hollywood glamour style in the 1990s. The Sharon Stone performance in Basic Instinct would have been the turning point. That film deliberately invokes the Hitchcock parallels. Her costumes, her hairstyles are all modeled on Kim Novak and on Tippi Hedren. My favorite scene from The Birds from the start was the scene at the jungle gym outside the schoolhouse. Melanie Daniels has come to warn the school teacher, played by Suzanne Plachette, and the class that there may be an attack of birds possibly breaking through the windows of the schoolhouse. To kill time, Melanie Daniels sits down at a bench and begins to smoke. This scene is only something like 90 seconds long, and yet you remember it as if it were hours. Hitchcock has very shrewdly ordered that the audience can see the crows beginning to land one by one on the jungle gym behind her. She smokes and smokes and smokes in this extraordinarily elegant manner that seems to me represents the highest point of sophistication of women coming down through history. When Melanie suddenly realizes what's behind her, there's this moment of absolute horror as she backs away. That scene has influenced my thinking about art enormously. It seems to me to show the full spectrum of human experience, from the most sophisticated elegance all the way to the opposite, the primitive barbarism of primeval nature.
All right, children, now please put your songbooks away, then stand up alongside your desks. We'll go out to recess as soon as everybody gets ready.